Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to our ISKCON official YouTube channel. Today I am going to describe Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, 21st chapter, text 4 onwards. Tad varnaitum arabdha smarantyaha Krishna chestitam nasakan smaravegena vikipta manaso nrupa. They couldn't speak anything. They wanted to speak but couldn't speak. The coward girls began to speak about Krishna, but when they remembered his activities, O king, the power of Cupid disturbed their minds and thus they couldn't speak. This is Bhava. So in the purport, Srila Vishwanath Thakur says that when the gopis attempted to describe the song of the flute, they couldn't do so because their hearts became overcome with strong desires for Krishna. What love is there? So Srila Sanatana Goswami in Vaishnava Doshan says, they were just beginning to describe his actions but couldn't because of the impulse of love with remembrance of Krishna. They pondered the actions consisting of playing the flute or what will be described later of Krishna who attracts all hearts, or some described his activities from the previous verse while others couldn't begin. O king, Sukadev calls out with pain on attaining a special bhava while relating this, or sing Parikshit entering a special bhava, he prevents it by addressing him. Pati shloke pratyakya nana arthaka. So many words, so many meanings are there. So, the next verse, that is verse 5, is a very famous verse. Barha pidang natavapuhu kannayuhu kannikaram vibhradavasa kannam kapisham vajayantim chamalam randhran venu radharsudaya puran govindai vrindaran svabhadraman pravisad geet kirti. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnikar flower on his ears, yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and Vajayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the coward boys sang his glories. Pravisad geet kirti. So in the purport, Sanatana Goswami says, there are a lot of commentators, but I would like to speak from Sanatana Goswami, Vaishnava Dosani. As he makes special bhava, Sukadeva remembers Krishna's grace on that occasion. After describing the gopis, he describes Krishna. Siddhaswami explains that the intention of the verse is to describe the form that is disturbed their minds. By remembering his activities, their minds become disturbed from his forest dress. Thus they couldn't speak. This verse thus gives another reason why they couldn't speak by describing his form rather than just his activities. Later, with the effort, they were able to speak this verse, since the next verse begins with iti, indicating someone just spoke. He was dressed as a human and a dancer with colorful clothing. Nata nara babu. Devatas always wear colorful clothing. Among humans, the dancer at certain times wear colorful clothing for dancing. Thus he wore a peacock feather, etc. Or he manifested a body which causes all jivas to dance in joy. Or he had a human body of a dancer. Instead of Nara, the word Bara is also seen. He had a karnikar flower on each ear. The karnikar flower is yellow and shaped like a lotus. He had 2 pieces of yellow cloth. In the spring and autumn, these flowers are plentiful and create beauty. He wore a Vajayanti garland which is made of flowers having 5 colors. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar from his lips. This means he played the flute with a special bhava which enchanted him as well as the gopis. he entered the forest of Vrinda, who was controller of that forest. She was always eager to make arrangement for Krishna's special pastimes. The forest was charming, Ramanam, or gave happiness to all because of his extraordinary footprints everywhere. But the forest produced rati, or attraction for his feet, since it was soft and covered with flower, pollen and petals. He was glorified because of his beauty and skills with songs by the cowherd boys, or he glorified the gopis with songs showing his special bhava, Geeta Kirti. He didn't directly name the gopis out of shyness. His gold ornaments and pearl necklaces are not mentioned since he has them all the time. Or in the first day of autumn, he entered the forest wearing a forest dress in order to play freely in the forest. It is not mentioned that Balaram was with him, though this has been mentioned previously and will also be mentioned later, since having the special bhava would be embarrassing for him in front of his elder brother, or because Sukadeva was completely overcome by the activities to be described, mentioning Balaram would not add to the description of Krishna. He is, however, included in the phrase Gopavrandehi. So, very nice verse we have heard. So, verse 6 says, Iti Venuravam Rajan Sarvabhuta Manoharam Srutva Brajastriya Sarva Bhanyantu Aviri. Sorry. So, in this way, O king, when the young ladies in the Braja heard the sound of Krishna's flute, which captivates the minds of all living beings, they all embraced one another and began describing it. So, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada in purport say, the word iti here indicates that after becoming speechless by remembering Krishna, the cowherd themselves then regained their composure and were thus able to ecstatically describe the sound of Krishna's flute. As a few gopis began to exclaim, and the other gopis realized that they shared the same ecstatic love within their hearts, all of them started embracing one another, overwhelmed with conjugal love for young Krishna. So, Srivas Vishwanath Thakur Thakur Sarada Santika says, seeing that the gopis couldn't speak, Sukadeva Goswami, being omniscient, began the description of Krishna's pastimes according to the mood of their intense love. Krishna was bedecked with a peacock feather, Varapidam, and a Karnika flower on his ears. Karnika is singular, whereas Karnayuho is in the dual form to indicate that sometimes Krishna wore one Karnika flower on the left ear and sometimes on the right ear to express the intoxication of his youth. He wore a Vaijayanti garland made up of flowers of 5 different colors. Thus Krishna's beautiful body looked like the best of dancers, Natavarapu. The use of the word Bibhrat indicates that Krishna purposefully dressed in an artful way to display his youthful charms in order to incite the romantic desires of the Dijan gopis. Since the gopis might have criticized the flute for having holes in it, and Krishna filled the holes with the nectar of his lips. Though the flute is not non-living, the touch of the nectar of Krishna's lips brought it to life and empowered it to madden the 3 worlds. Then, considering the flute to the dull, lifeless and unqualified for such work, the vibration exudes from its holes and enters the ears and minds of the Brajagopis. The implication is that the flute vibration makes itself successful in accomplishing its purpose of fully exhibiting its powers by conquering the Brajagopis with Kirti. So, Srila Sanatana Goswami in Braj Vaishnava Darshan says, saying this or in this way, situated far away or close by, all of them with varying degrees of love or all in a group began to describe the sound of the flute since they had already described him. Sorry. They could speak only what was not already mentioned, When later his form and dress are again described, it should be understood that it is mentioned as an assistant to other statements. Or the statement describing Krishna's activities can be correlated with the statements in verse 20. Banento, mitho, go. They narrated to one another the playful pastimes of the Lord. They mentally embraced Krishna, who had overpowered their hearts, or they embraced each other because their natural love had awakened, or they embraced the sound of the flute with affection. They became attached to the sound. This was because the sound of the flute was attractive to all beings, but to speak of only the gopis. So thank you very much for listening to this lecture, and please don't forget to subscribe, share and like our channel and get blessings from the Lord. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna